And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who really wants to impersonate an American celebrity. Hi, folks, and welcome back to The Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And you know something? It's another fabulous day on Milleronia. It's good to be back on Milleronia. In fact, it's great to be back on Milleronia. But first, wow, that music made me feel great today. It always makes me feel great, but whew, both in the testing, the sound test, and then the start of the show makes me feel wonderful. And of course, that's the Bruise by Dawn Orchestra and the Samantha Brooklyn Dancers, featuring boy tenor Mike Lucking, asking the musical question, if the universe is infinite, as we think it is, does that mean there has to be a planet where drinks are free and all the women look like Julie Newmar? Yes. That's a great question, Mike, but an easy answer. Yes. Yes, it just has to mean that. It absolutely has to mean that. I mean, well, let me put it this way. It's such a wonderful idea. Yes. I mean, good Lord, folks. All the drinks are free and all the women look like Julie Newmar? Yes, just yes. I don't even believe other planets have life, but free drinks and Julie Newmar, they have life now. Yes, just yes. And whew, it could be, by the way, there's no better choices than free drinks and Julie Newmar. None. But I just want to add, if you had said Scarlett Johansson instead and put her in there, yes, just yes. Yes, today, yesterday, tomorrow, yes. And anyone you really think is just gorgeous, because she is gorgeous. So just yes. But God bless her, Julie Newmar, phew, so many parts, both in movies and TV, and oh Lord, as the Catwoman, there is no one, even the other terrific actresses who've done that, but come on, Julie Newmar, I mean, again, yes. Good question, Mike. Very good question. In fact, terrific question. And the answer is yes. Whew. Wow. I'm awake now. I mean, we worked on the Colonel, too. Anybody? He's mopping his brow. And who wouldn't? Come on. That's such a good question, I'm going to repeat it. If the universe is infinite as we think it is, does that mean there has to be a planet where drinks are free and all the women look like Julie Newmar? Absolutely. Yikes. And by Amazon and PayPal and my book. You know, folks, Amazon is still the greatest company in the world because they still do three things no other company does. One, whatever you order, they'll give you. Two, they already have it. They don't have to order it themselves. They don't have to make it, borrow it, get it out from someplace. They have it already. And three, boy, oh boy, they send us a percentage of everything you order. And that's terrific. That's the best part for me, certainly. And Colonel Jeff agrees. We put that cash right in the cash box and save it for our next big, fancy fried chicken dinner with 2 drinks beforehand in a different place. So if you want to go to Amazon, and of course you do, here's a good tip. Don't just go to Amazon. Don't go to your iPhone or your your computer or your flip top, anything. Don't go to anything. Go to our website. That's LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the mountain? Tom Mix. Boy, that poor guitar player there, he must have cut himself when that string went. By golly. But they do that. Go to our website, and we have a banner that says Amazon. You click our banner and you don't have to worry about a thing. We'll take you there. Click our banner, then go take a nap, make a nice burger at home, do anything you want. Lie down on your big fancy easy boy chair or lazy boy chair. Ooh, and lie back, put a magazine over your face, and go to sleep. Because we will get you there, and we don't care. Colonel Jeff and I will wake up in the middle of the night. The middle of the night. Can you imagine such a thing? And there's a red light on both of our phones. And normally we use that only for talking to the president. Or the president of anything, by the way. It could be the president of the phone company. All presidents need a good talking to. And that's sure true, isn't it, folks? But you know what? We'll get you there. The lights will go off. We'll get together in the studio, whether it's here on Milleronia or back on the mainland in our home studio. Folks, I'm telling you, wow. We'll get you to Amazon and by PayPal, another terrific group. I like them so much. You feel like you're saving the world when you work with PayPal. And that's a good feeling, folks. And you know what? If you enjoy my show, and why wouldn't you? And you'd like to send a few bucks here to help out, and why wouldn't you? You can do it through PayPal. And I don't like saying things like donate this or pay what you like or join the Platinum Committee. I don't like those. I like to just say buy us some drinks. Because there are different levels 1 through 5, all the way up to... We're driving to Florida! Absolutely. I agree with that fella too, and always will. Yes! And you know what, folks? The way to get there is the same. You go to our website, LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the mountain? Tom Mix. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have had the fish. But you do that, you go to our website, and we have another banner there for PayPal. And you click that, and, well, every little bit helps us keep the old leg lamp lit. And thank you to everyone who's contributed already. It means a lot to us. And thank you to everyone who's about to contribute. It really makes a difference to us, so thanks. And by my book. That's right. Signed hardcover copies of my book, Spoiled Rotten America, are now for sale at store.comedyfilmnerds.com. And I'm very proud of the book. It did very well when it came out, when it was released. And you'll enjoy it, and I'm very proud of it. But you'll have a good time. It's funny. It's insightful. It's really meaningful. Oh, wait, that's me. Funny, insightful, meaningful. Yes, that's me. Okay, well, the book is too. But thank you in advance. It really does mean a lot, folks. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. Once again, just the sound of bongo drums makes me smile. Why that became popular for cartoon characters running away or for our joke of the week, I don't know, but I like it. I like it in both ways. And there's nothing better than a good joke to pass along, folks, and I hope you like this one. The Colonel and I both like it, and if you do too, pass it along to your family and loved ones and friends. Here it is, the joke of the week. Well, a lovely young woman goes to a fancy party in a fancy city. And she doesn't do this kind of thing a lot, but, well, they have all sorts of journalists there and military people there and some folks in politics there. And she doesn't want to go out with them. Let's be honest, neither do you. But this night she sees there's a very handsome general there in uniform, and she's kind of drawn to him, and she walks over there. He's standing by the fireplace, and he has a drink in his hand, and his uniform looks great. And she says, they start talking. She says, "Good evening, General," and he says, "Good evening" to her. And, she's really taken by this guy. She she doesn't even understand how, but she can't take her eyes off him. And then finally she says, just a few minutes into the conversation, she says, General, I'm sorry, but I just have to ask you this. When was the last time you made love to a woman? And he just says right out, he says, 1957. And she's a little taken aback by that, a little shocked, and says, well, you know what, General? Why don't we make this a very special night right now? Why don't we go to one of the bedrooms upstairs and, well, make love right now? And he nods and puts his drink down and holds his arm out, and she takes his arm, and they go upstairs to a beautiful bedroom. And they close the door, and there's already, can you imagine this? There's already champagne in there. Who knows who throws these parties? But they do. They have a glass of champagne. They drink it. They drain it. They both throw the glasses into the fireplace, and they both smash. And then they make love for the next hour. And it's frankly fantastic. It's the greatest sex she's ever had. Finally, they finish, and she's covered in the sheet, and she looks at him and says, General, I have to tell you that it hasn't taken away from your sexuality and your power in the sexual act, that the last time you had it was 1957. And he says, well, I certainly hope not. He looks at his watch and says, it's only 21:30 now. And other good arguments for having military time on a 24-hour clock. So, well, Colonel Jeff and I thought that was a pretty good one. He had it in 1957, which was really just an hour or two ago. And he wasn't lying. That's the way he speaks and lives. Well, good for them both. I hope they got together again and had a nice dinner and saw a movie. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. And I'll bet you $1 the General in the joke didn't have a cough like that. No, he was too busy going by military time for his sex. This is a poem called Summer by Alexander Pope, a great poet and a great writer, who was an English poet, lived from 1688 to 1744. And he is best known for satirical verse and his translation of Homer. He also did translations of the Iliad and the Odyssey. But what made me and the Colonel smile was that, Alexander Pope, I said, let's find something out about him. So Jeff opened up his section on Wikipedia, rather, and their first sentence on him was, not to be confused with Pope Alexander. Well, that's fine with me, and I think he and I both had the same reaction. Well, I wasn't confusing him with Pope Alexander, but thanks for the warning. I guess you guys were. I don't know why you would, but I guess you were. So anyway, here's a poem by Alexander Pope called Summer. See what delights in sylvan scenes appear. Descending gods have found Elysium here. In woods bright Venus with Adonis strayed, and chaste Diana haunts the forest shade. Come, lively nymph, and bless the silent hours, when swains from shearing seek their nightly bowers, when weary reapers quit the sultry field, and crowned with corn their thanks to Ceres yield. This harmless grove no lurking viper hides, but in my breast the serpent love abides. Here bees from blossoms sip the rosy dew, but your Alexis knows no sweets but you. O deign to visit our forsaken seats, the mossy fountains and the green retreats. Where'er you walk, cool gales shall fan the glade. Trees where you sit shall crowd into a shade. And where'er you tread, the blushing flowers shall rise, and all things flourish where you turn your eyes. Oh, how I long with you to pass my days, invoke the muses and resound your praise. Your praise the birds shall chant in every grove, and winds shall waft it to the powers above. But would you sing and rival Orpheus's strain? The wondering forests soon should dance again. The moving mountains hear the powerful call, and headlong streams hang listening in their fall. But see, the shepherds shun the noonday heat, the lowing herds to murmuring brooks retreat, to closer shades the panting flocks remove. Ye gods, and is there no relief for love? But soon the sun with milder rays descends to the cool ocean where his journey ends. On me love's fiercer flames forever prey. By night he scorches as he burns by day. Isn't that lovely? By golly. Then well, when you're looking for poets from that century, you couldn't do anything to beat Pope Alexander. Oh, I confused him. Oh, what the? Oh, come on. Oh, we've gotten to get in touch with those Wikipedia folks, and they need to make that warning better. Well, just being silly, of course. A beautiful poem by Alexander Pope, Summer. And thank you, Mr. Pope. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show. Triple M. MMM. The Magic Movie Moment. Well, folks, this is a great movie. I've loved it. Good Lord, I must have seen it 30 times. It's terrific. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from 1966. Directed by Sergio Leone, starring Clint Eastwood as Joe, Eli Wallach as Tuco, Lee Van Cleef as Salenza, and many other fine actors with names I didn't know. They're all Italian names because this was in this movie came from the spaghetti western days for Clint Eastwood and the other folks there. And, those guys were all great. And it always struck me, even as a kid, by the way, that everyone else, all the other actors in those movies looked like what they are, which is Italian. They're handsome and they're terrific actors. But you put one in the blue uniform of the Civil War, colonel, and he looks like when he is a guy who just strangled someone in the middle of Italy somewhere. But you know what? This is all those spaghetti westerns were good. I love them very much. And there's none better than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Colonel Jeff and I were wondering which was which, by the way, when, we first decided, sure, let's do that one. But how do you do that? How do you have a casting meeting with someone and say, hey, it's great to see you. We're all huge fans of you here. And yes, we're making a movie and we'd like you in it in one of the starring roles. And the movie is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we have, Clint Eastwood, the great Clint Eastwood playing the good. And, oh, for goodness sake, the great Lee Van Cleef as Salenza, who's playing the bad. And we think you should play the ugly. And it's a terrific part. And we think you're going to love it. And in case you're worrying, we're going to make you a very handsome ugly. And, but, boy, no one was greater than those actors. And Eli Wallach could play anything his whole life. Good Lord. And, it's a great story, folks. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And how do they get by? And how do they help one another? And how do they fool the world? And how do they look for money? And how do they get it? Or how do they lose it? But there's one scene along the way of this great story where Tuco, who is played by Eli Wallach, is journeying with his sometime partner, Joe, who is Clint Eastwood. And they're going along the way to meet Tuco's brother, who is a priest in Mexico. And Tuco's very, very glad to see him, and Tuco wants to go in there and see his brother. But in this scene, it tells you so much. His brother is disgusted with Tuco. He says, you know what, you were always a crook, you're always a criminal, you always stole from people, you always hurt people, you always killed people, and you didn't have the courage to do what I did and become a priest as we were growing up where we grew. And he says that speech of his is about 20 or 30 seconds, but boy, folks, it's a great scene because Eli Wallach immediately says to him, he turns and he lays it right back on him, what are you doing talking to me this way like that? I didn't have the courage to be you, a priest who sits here doing nothing? You, my friend, you're at fault. You never had the courage here in your entire life. You never had the courage to be like me, to grow strong and fight your way out of everything. And he says it so beautifully and so much better. And he says, that's it, I'm leaving now. And he storms out kind of and gets in the wagon again where Clint Eastwood was already sitting. And the thing is, Clint Eastwood and you and I already know what happened with his brother. You could hear it, and Clint Eastwood could hear it. And, well, Eli Wallach as Tuco just gets on the wagon and kind of flaps the reins there, and the horses take off, clopping along. And Clint Eastwood just glances over at him and says, how's your brother? And Wallach just says, he's fine, he's always good. That brother of mine, so glad to see me, always has a good bowl of soup for his brother Tuco. He's not making up a lie. We can see, and you can see, that he just doesn't care to live in the rotten place his brother has put him. And we see, as Tuco leaves, that the brother himself is sorry for what happened, and his brother lowers his head onto a windowsill, and he's very upset, and the brother just looks back out the window and says, I'm sorry, my brother, because he knows he is the one who has done nothing. And we love Tuco and Joe even more for the adventures they're continuing on. But that's a magic movie moment, because Tuco, played by the great Eli Wallach, will always just say about his brother, you know what? He's a good man. Everyone else, even the Pope, likes him. And he just says things that Clint Eastwood and we know aren't true. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to us. We like them more, not less. See that sometime if you haven't. See The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's a very, very good movie. It's from 1966, directed by Sergio Leone. And, you know, I know I started to tell you today how good it feels to be back on Milleronia. And one of the main reasons is that our citizens do not participate in any political events on their TVs. And I know I don't talk about politics. I don't think there's anything valuable in that for me or you. And Colonel Jeff agrees that it's enough of that. we're at the point, both he and I, maybe you are too, that every time I'm on TV now, I'm watching the TV, I can't watch news anymore. It's been not just a couple of months, it's been years now with this. I can't, it's so annoying where everything comes in, where you just see, this, a news break coming right up. News break here now. And this just in. And all those ridiculous things they say. It's not just in. And it's not breaking right now. And I can't watch it. I have no interest in it. In anything political. And so, that's why on Milleronia I decided, and yes, it was me, I decided that our citizens will not have my permission to get political events on their TVs. I don't think it's valuable. It's not against the law. I haven't made it against the law. I don't take them to the volcano. I think about it, but I don't take them to the volcano. I just don't approve. Citizens are all allowed to watch both conventions, start to finish, at the town hall. But it's just a regular TV in a back room next to a candy machine. There's no giant digital NFL-sized screens that make you feel less than what they're showing. And here's a little secret. No one's ever complained. And I'm proud of my people for that. And you know what? And I've done this too, and this has been my order. During the convention season, and with both big parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, during the whole season, every channel on every TV here in Milleronia only shows reruns of The Rifleman and Superman and Car 54. And again, guess what? No one's ever complained. Those of the shows, those are the ones that have justice in them and seek justice and get it. But we do have something that's fun, by the way, as far as this whole insane time with politics goes. All of our citizens are encouraged, they are allowed, and they are encouraged to dress up in political clothes with badges and plastic IDs and crazy hats, and they have their own conventions. And they also have posters and banners of some of our elected officials and me. First and last, they must have them of me. I may be biased in this, but I'm going to tell you what, the fake conventions they put on are just as good. I have no interest in watching the regular ones. The ones our people put on here on Milleronia are terrific. They're better, in fact, because we have a tradition here that a dozen really, really pretty young Milleronians come running on stage every 20 minutes to cheer for whoever just spoke. And me. Their uniforms are fabulous. I'm telling you, they're really, really something. And these young women are beautiful. And this is worth the price of admission alone. And if this sounds a little goofy or silly to you, believe me, if you saw them do it live, you would think it was the greatest show on earth. It's a great bunch of cheerleaders. And you know something, I really can't take it. That's one of the reasons I don't want to talk about it. The whole world of politics. And I remembered something I was just telling Colonel Jeff before we started to record that in 1976, I was working at Amtrak in New York, which was in Penn Station, and the whole company and all the trains, and Madison Square Garden. It's just a terrific place to work. And in 1976, they also had the convention there. The Democrats were there. And every day for lunch, I would grab a hot dog or something and just go outside, into beautiful New York and sit there and watch the parade of characters go by. And when I say parade of characters, I mean there's something happens every day of a convention I had no idea about. I never knew before. But this happens during every convention. People put on little scenes from American history. This is not something the political parties tell them to do or pay for, but folks, regular people will go to, quite a distance to put on Washington crossing the Delaware, for instance. So there's no words in this. They just dress really, really well, just like just like General George Washington, and in that boat crossing the Delaware, and his men there, and Washington standing up, which turns out to have been true, by the way. Some people used to say, "Oh, well, no, he couldn't have done that." Yes, he could. These boats were very big and very deep, and you know what? They needed their general to stand there with one leg up on the next bench and see where they were going. And that was a remarkable mission, by the way, that worked just perfectly. And there's another one I remember from this convention. That's the reason I'm bringing this up. I remembered this story. Well, I've never forgotten it. Abraham Lincoln was there. Some citizen, some fella took the time and trouble and the money and dressed up just like Honest Abe. And he looked fabulous. He had the exact right build. He was 6'3" or 6'4" and slender, and he had a perfect outfit on. The long black suit and the long black coat and the tall black hat, and he had one hand clutching his lapel and the other hand holding a black book in it, and he would just turn his head and stare at people and slowly nod as they walked by. And it was really something to see him. It was very meaningful. And folks, one day at lunchtime, when I was sitting there with my hot dog, there were two bums on the sidewalk outside Madison Square Garden, outside Penn Station, and they too were watching these displays. And by the way, when I say the word bum, I mean, it's not a word you hear much anymore, not a word that gets used a lot, but bums in the classic sense of, they weren't kids. They were 40 or 50 years old, and they were, dressed a little raggy, and they sure needed shaves, but, and they were a little stumbly, a little drunk. And they were standing there watching Abraham Lincoln too, right next to me. And they stopped and they start to look at Lincoln, and one of them says to the other, "Oh, come on, let's go, let's keep going here." And the other one doesn't move right away. He's looking at Lincoln, and finally he says, "Oh, wait a minute. I know that guy." And I heard him, and the other folks standing around heard him. I thought that was one of the funniest things I had ever heard. Nothing against this fella. That's part of their lives, and that's part of how they live and how their heads work. But he was looking at Lincoln, looking at him. Wait, I know that guy. And it was the classic, with a bum accent on it, you might say, "I know that guy." And his friend said to him, looked at him, then looked at Lincoln again. His friend didn't recognize anything more either. Finally said, come on. And then, with nothing else said, they both just shuffled off to complete their adventures of that day. But you know what, folks? I not only thought that was a wonderful moment, but that is as real as politics has ever gotten to me. And I'm not happy to say that, but to see General Washington standing in the boat crossing the Delaware, and to see Abraham Lincoln looking around and nodding at people as they went by, well, that's what we should be looking for, folks. And I don't think we will be. And, I'm happy that we're back in Milleronia and, in our studio here, and the doggies are with us, and they're on the floor, and they're relaxing, and it reminds me again something you know. The dogs are still the only ones who really know what's going on. But you and I know the same things. Homer is Homer. Pluto is a planet. And so remember, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to where someone cared about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. Be well, and we'll see you here next time.